Stanford University and Santa Claus. Have you ever heard of a university president who judged people based on their appearance? A story that started with someone a long time ago and touched a sad spot in many people's heart. It's the legendary story of the founding of Stanford University. Here's the brief plot. The scene is outside the president's office at Harvard University. A shabbily dressed old couple is trying to meet with the president of Harvard University, but the president and his secretary don't want to meet with the shabbily dressed couple, after waiting all day and begging and pleading. They finally meet the president, who is very annoyed. The old couple begins their story. We had a son who went to Harvard for a year, and he loved Harvard dearly, but about a year ago, he passed away in an accident. So my husband and I decided that we wanted to create a monument to him on this campus. Then the president said bluntly, "We can't erect a statue for everybody who died while attending Harvard. If we did, this place would probably look like a cemetery." "No, Mr. President," she quickly explained. "We're not trying to put up a statue. We were thinking that if we donated a building to Harvard." The president took another look at their tattered clothes and spoke up. "A building? A building? Do you have any idea how much a building costs? There are a lot of buildings at Harvard right now. They cost over $7.5 million. For a moment, the lady was speechless. The university president was delighted. Now he could finally let those people go. The wife turned to her husband and spoke quietly. "So, that's what it costs to build a university. Come on, why don't we build a new university of our own?" The husband nodded his head. The president's face contorted with confusion and embarrassment. Mr. and Mrs. Leland Stanford immediately got up, walked out the door, and drove straight to Palo Alto, California, where they built a very beautiful university, Stanford Univ, named after their son. This is the inspiring story of the legendary Stanford University. I heard this story a long time ago and was moved by it. But I never tried to know if it was true. I never doubted that President Harvard was so rude. And it has stayed with me for a long time. One day I was driving down a ramshackle street called Stanford Avenue, near downtown Los Angeles, and I remembered this story. A sad story. By the way, I recently found out that the story was made up. Apparently, there are records that President of Harvard helped found Stanford University. I felt a small palace in my heart shatter. No matter how inspiring the story, fake is only fake. I always take the word of others without question. I always do. How about you? How many lies are there in the world? How many people are wronged because of it? If Mr. Harvard were alive today, how much would he feel wronged? How can someone who has been wronged be compensated? In a story someone made up, I think the most beautiful story in the world is the story of Santa Claus. Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. At first, he was teased by his friends, but after Santa Claus praised his nose, his friends weren't jealous of him, they loved him. There are no victims in that story. Unlike the story of the founding of Stanford University, there is no victims in the story of Santa Claus. A beautiful story should have no victims. At one school, there was a teacher who taught that Santa Claus was a fictional character and not real. The school fired the teacher. The reason given for the teacher's dismissal was that he had shattered the children's beautiful fantasy. I read this story in the newspaper and I'm not making it up. Which is more important, the children's fantasy or the teacher's livelihood? I don't know. Oh, by the way, is it true that the story of the founding of Stanford University is fake? Thanks for listening.